Today is lockdown day 26 and as promised I'm doing Grandma's cannelloni. It's actually my mother's, but I say Grandma's because that's what my daughters think of it as. It's very cheap, very fiddly but very cheap. We start off by using tinned chopped ham. For those of you in Spain, it's a big one like this. For those at home, it's half the size and it's oblong and it's chopped ham with pork. I have grated that half of it, only half of it. Don't know what I'm going to do with the other half, but I've grated that. This is the cannelloni I'm using, which doesn't need cooking, right? If you haven't got or can't get cannelloni, you can blanch some lasagna pasta and put the filling in the middle of it and roll it up. It does exactly the same thing. Into that chopped ham with pork, I'm going to put my soaked bread. This is Marco's homemade bread and it's gone quite stodgy, but it doesn't matter because that makes it all bind together. So that's the bread which has been soaked in milk. Then I have some grated cheese. This is cheddar cheese. It can be any cheese whatsoever that you've got. Just a small block of it. Put that in. In here I have some parsley, a little bit of fresh basil because as I say I've got it, some garlic and some grated onion. Parsley, basil, garlic and grated onion. Have I got garlic for my sauce over there? No, I haven't. So I'm only going to put half of that in. Parsley and basil and grated onion. Now really this needs a little bit of seasoning, but not much because the chopped ham with pork is actually quite salty. So I'm going to put a little bit of paprika and black pepper in. Has this got salt in as well, Marco? Yeah, but hopefully not very much. So that's quite straightforward. I'm then going to mix that up with my extremely clean hands. Squash it together. Can you see that? I'll do it in front of the camera so you can see it. It mixes up really quite easily and I can get the smell of the garlic and the herbs coming out. This then goes into the cannelloni pasta. I'll just show you one and then I'll stop. Right, there's the cannelloni pasta. You have to treat this very, very delicately because it breaks easily and often you can buy the cannelloni and it's all broken up. This one is all in one piece. You then push that in like so. It's a little bit time consuming and there is no quick and easy way of doing this. If anybody knows an easier way then do tell me because I really don't know. And then you push that in and put those to one side ready to load up. We're then going over to the cooker to make the tomato sauce. Now in actual fact I'm going to tell you that with this recipe, this is all about cheapness. You can just use a jar of tomato sauce ready-made and pour it over the top. As a cook, I cannot quite bring myself to do that. I have to make a sauce. Okay, I'm now going to stuff the rest of these and then come back to you. Cutting off here half an onion, the other half to the one that was grated into the cannelloni. To that I will add my jar of tomatoes. I'm not quite sure whether this is a ready made up one. No, I think it's just tomato paste. I'm going to add a little bit of water to that and shake it up. Waste not, want not, get all the bits out. A I've got some chicken stock here that was left from Marco's roasted chicken. I've put that in. You don't have to put that in. As I say, you can just use the jar of the tomato sauce on its own. But I can't bring myself to do that. Turn the heat down. Add the basil and parsley. There's a little bit of rosemary in there. No, there isn't, Marco. Marco doesn't like rosemary. A little bit of the good old Maggi, Liam Perrins, whichever you've got. Again, the usual suspects for a tomato sauce. Thyme, oregano.
Loads of that. I like it.
Loads of that. He likes it. Paprika, salt and pepper.
One day I have to explain you something about that thing, but not now.
Now, I usually put a little bit of sugar in this, but I'm not sure whether the sauce is sweet. So I'll leave it. I'll taste it and tell whether it's sweet or not. No, it's quite bitter. I'll put a bit of sugar in before we do it. Okay, so now we've got this sauce, which I'm going to let it bubble for a few minutes, and then I'll put it all together and show you what I do. I have made a bechamel sauce here, and that's going in it as well. I'm not going to show you that again, as I've done this, I think, a couple of times.
Last time you made the lasagna, for example.
Yeah, you made it, yeah. Oh no, I made it.
Okay.
Okay, the oven's on a medium heat. And I'm just going to put together Grandma's cannelloni. Just before I finish, shout out to Jackie and Sean in Barnsley. They should be here now and they asked me to do a shout out. Okay, on the base, a little bit of the tomato sauce. Spread that out like so. There, that's so the pasta doesn't stick onto the bottom, because this pasta isn't completely cooked, isn't cooked at all, and what will happen is it will absorb the juice. So we put these in, and let's hope I've made not too many, and I'm not sure, to fill this. What do you think, Marco? Do you think I've made enough?
Perfectly fits, I guess.
Ooh, you know that because I tried it before.
That was cheating.
Right, tomato sauce over the top of that. Gorgeous tomato sauce. I did put a little pinch of sugar in it because it didn't have any in the sauce. Spread that out so that it can cook the pasta properly when it goes in the oven. If you don't have enough liquid in, the whole thing is far too dry because the pasta soaks up the liquid. On the top of this is going the bechamel sauce. I'm going to put quite a lot of this because I like this dish to be quite juicy. Because remember, the filling for the cannelloni is fairly dry, so everything else around it needs to be quite juicy. Spread that out, that over there, and on the top, parmesan. Clean my hand. There. Parmesan spread all over the top. This now goes in the medium oven, which is already on, for I would say about 25 minutes to 30 minutes on that medium heat, till it browns on the top, and so that everything is completely cooked through, and you will find that that's lovely. I'll show you the finished result. So this is the finished result of the cannelloni. I did say the other day that we did this live on television and I thought it was for cracker. I've just spoken to my daughter who has reminded me that no, it wasn't cracker. It was a series called Band of Gold. And I don't know if you remember, it was quite a long time ago, and Lena Headey, who was Cersei in Game of Thrones, was in it, and Samantha Morton, who then went on to quite a lot of big film parts, even with Tom Cruise, was in it, and that was one of their very first things that they were ever in. And we were actually filmed on Granada Reports in Manchester. They did a little slot about film and TV catering, and I didn't do the demonstration. I thought I did, but it was my chef Russell. But it was Grandma, my mum's recipe of chopped ham with pork, and I think we also did fresh halibut with a wild mushroom sauce, which was, we had to do one sort of cheaper one and one posh one. Anyway, that was one of my claims to fame. Okay, beautiful. Day after tomorrow, it's going to be chicken ham and leek pie, done by Marco. Okay.